In this video, we're going to be taking a look at embellishment techniques with the parting glass. Now, embellishment techniques encompass the hammer-on, the pull-off, and the slide. And this Irish folk tune is a perfect example because there's a lot of really quick, fun, melodic movements that the techniques that we're going to use here actually make a little bit easier to play. What you'll find is that embellishment techniques, although difficult at first because it's a new skill, will really allow your playing to be stepped up, not only in terms of sound, because these things sound really cool and fun, but it also actually makes things a little bit easier to play when you're trying to build up speed and precision within these melodic lines. Let's go and take a look at these techniques, and we're going to work on first the pull-off. So to do a pull-off, what we're going to do is we're going to start by playing the 5th fret on the A string with our ring finger here, and we're going to take our index finger and place it here on the 3rd fret of the A string. I'm going to play the 5 on the A, and I'm going to pull it off to the 3 on the A. Now, how does that work? Well, pull off, I think, is the hardest of these techniques, which is why I wanted to start with it. What we're going to do is not just take the finger off. What we're going to do is we're going to physically pluck the string. So, quick note, make sure that pressure with the index finger is right there on the 3rd fret of the A string. We're going to play the note, let it sustain, and then what we want to do is we want to make sure that this ring finger actually plucks the string by pulling downward and plucking it with the pad of the finger, just like you would finger picking, but with the fretting hand instead. So it's really important to get the positioning just right, because without the correct positioning, it can be very difficult to work on. You'll also find that a more advanced player will have a better time with this, not just because they're better with the ukulele, but because the pads on their fingers might be a bit thicker, and it makes it easier to catch it. But let's take a look at that again. The ring finger is right here, index right here. I'm going to play that, and then I'm going to pull off, plucking the string, keeping the index nice and strong. Let's try that again. 5, pull off to 3. 5, pull off to 3. One more time there. Now, another thing that we can practice with this is doing all of the different fingers. Now, we can just hold this index finger here if we want, and we can practice doing things like 4 to 3. This will sound a little sour, but that's okay. Same concept, that middle finger, plucking the string. That 5 to 3 we just did. And then the pinky, 6 to 3. That one's the hardest for most people because, well, the pinky, it's kind of an awful finger. It's pretty weak. It takes a lot more practice, but it can really stretch the distance on the frets to make a cooler sound. So remember, when you're doing a pull-off, the trick is to physically pluck the string with the finger. So far, we've worked on examples with this index finger here stationed to make sure that it gives us a consistent tone, but we're not always going to do that. Sometimes we're going to play to an open string. So here's another thing you can do. Play it with the index finger here, and now pull off to the open. You'll notice it's the same concept. I'm still plucking the string. I'm not just taking the finger off and letting the surface tension do the pull off. Even though that can create a bit of a sound, it's not going to be nearly as prominent as plucking it as I go through. And then I can practice doing that, and I can practice doing it with each finger. There I'm just doing the open string. I can also station there on 3. And practice as well. This is nice because it's working each one of our fingers to get comfortable with the pull-off. You'll probably find that one of the fingers you're going to be more comfortable with than the others. That's totally normal. Just work on the ones you're less comfortable with to try to build up that strength and that dexterity to get this tone really good. So the pull-off, I think, is the hardest. The second hardest, I think, is the hammer-on. And it's kind of the antithesis to the pull-off. The pull-off takes a note that's high and makes it low. A hammer-on takes a note that's low and it makes it high. Let's go ahead and go back to that same position we just were at. We're going to play the 3 right here. Now what we're going to do is take our ring finger and we're going to hammer on to the 5th fret of the A string after we play it. That looks like this. Now hammer-ons are also tricky Because unlike a pull-off that you can actually create and generate sound with, it's a lot harder to generate sound with a hammer-on. It kind of relies on the string already vibrating a little bit more than the pull-off did. And what you want to do with the hammer-on is you want to think literally. Think of a hammer. If you were taking a hammer and you're driving through a nail, it's going to work best when that hammer makes a really clean contact to the nail head, right? It's the same mindset here. If you look at my fingers, you'll actually see that I've got these lines on the indent. And that's where my calluses are and where the hammer-on is going to take place. You notice this knuckle is bent so that my fingertip is like a hammerhead going right into it. Really articulate, really specific angle. And you'll see the strength that I'm kind of doing with it. Another tip here is kind of feel like you're driving through the ukulele, almost like you're trying to push through the neck. Obviously, you're not going to do that, but kind of increase the pressure a little bit as you make contact with the hammer-on, and that can help get a good articulate sound. If you find that this hurts your finger a little bit, totally normal. You need pretty thick calluses for it to not hurt your fingers, and even then, play with some skinny strings, it might still hurt. So that's just doing the hammer-on with the ring finger. We can also try it like with the middle finger here. So still holding strong on that 3, doing it just from the 3 to the 4. It's a good way to play some fun movie magic. And then we can also practice it with the pinky. We can do 3 to 6. This is by far the hardest because the pinky is weak, and the further distance you go, the harder it is to get a good hammer-on sound. The closer you are, like this 3 to 4, is much easier than this 6 to 3. Pinky's same deal though. I'm going to be just getting comfortable doing the hammer-on with the pinky tip driving through like a hammer. And that's something that you can practice, is just practice these hammer-ons going right up with that 3. Now, just like the pull-off, we can do the hammer-on from open. It's kind of hard to do, but it's fun to do. We can go open, and then we can hammer on to 3 on the A string. This is tricky. It's a lot of the thumb back here and being really stable with how you're holding and bracing with the ukulele. Honestly, wear a strap. If it's hard, it's okay to wear a strap. Anyone that tells you never wear a strap, life's too short. Just wear a strap. It's okay. The strap can give you really good support with this, so you're not battling holding the ukulele in addition to trying to do this tricky technique. But what you'll notice is with the hammer-on, when you're not holding a strap, like I'm not right now, you'll see that sometimes I kind of will hold it like this, and I'll kind of bring the hand upward to get that hammer-on. And I'll do that for the pull-off as well. Kind of twist outward. It looks a little funky. And that's just because I'm not using a strap and holding up the ukulele. If you're using a strap, it's okay to be a little bit more proper in the position. Kind of find what works for you with that technique. But doing the hammer-on from open to 3 and open to 4 and open to 5 and open to 6. Man, the open to 6. That's so hard to do. Because the pinky's so weak. It's kind of a tense tone. But practicing these can be so great to get that, again, strength and dexterity with your hammer-on. So hammer-ons and pull-offs, again, kind of the antithesis to each other because one goes up in the case of a hammer-on, the other goes down in the case of a pull-off. The third embellishment technique, though, is a little bit more all-encompassing. And honestly, I think it's the most important of these 3 embellishment techniques, and the one that I think we're going to use the most with the parting glass. And what that is a slide. The reason I think the slide is more important than either of the other techniques is because it can go up or down. So let's go ahead and try this example. We're going to do that same 3 on the A string. Let's use our index finger here. We're kind of living in this zone for now. Go ahead and play the 3 on the A and slide it up to the 5 on the A. Well, if you wait too long, there's not a lot to slide, right? So with slides, you have to do it relatively quickly. You don't have to do it immediately. We don't want to practice that. We want to establish the note first. So play the 3 and then slide. Play the 3 and then slide to 5. Now, how am I doing that? Well, what I'm doing is I'm increasing the pressure that I'm fretting with the middle or the index finger here. And as I go, I'm going right up into the fret wire. And as I increase the pressure, I kind of stop myself from going above the 5th fret. That increase in pressure, I think, might contribute to applying a little bit more energy to the string vibration. I don't know. It helps me think about it. And usually, it helps me get a really good tone with it. That increase in pressure does mean that your finger's going to get worn out a lot faster, but it also gives you a really nice sound as you're doing that slide. So that's the index sliding from 3 to 5, right? Well, I can also go from 5 to 3. It's the same concept, but it does feel different. I think sliding up is easier than sliding down because when you're sliding up, you can kind of slide into the fret wire. But when you're sliding down, you have to kind of just cross over the fret wire and stop. That makes it more challenging. So what you can do is try to slide right to that point. It's okay to look. There's nothing wrong with looking at your fingers while you're playing. Look at what you're doing and see if you can see and predictively move. I'm visualizing this finger going from here to here. So we have 3 to 5 and 5 to 3. And now try it with the other fingers. Here I overshot it there with the pinky. It's always the pinky, isn't it? That's just because sometimes the pinky needs a little bit extra practice. It's okay to double up on the pinky just to give it that extra. That was a bit better. And so those are our embellishment techniques of the pull-off, the hammer-on, and the slide. And we're going to be using all 3 of these now as we start to look at how to play the parting glass. So now let's go ahead and dive into the parting glass. To play this, one quick note for 2 different techniques. We're going to be using our embellishment techniques, which are 3 different things, right? We've got our hammer-on, our pull-off, and our slide. We're also going to be using what's called a rest stroke with our playing hand. Now, a rest stroke is taking your thumb and plucking a string and resting on the next one. We're going to do that whenever we pluck a string. We want to try to rest into the next one. It gives us really good articulation and really good control. Obviously, when we go through the A string, there's nowhere to rest, but we still want to be kind of going inward with the thumb to create that really good sound. Let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to play the 5th fret on the E string with our ring finger here. We're going to pluck that. And then we're going to do our first embellishment, a slide. So when we do a slide, we increase the pressure with that ring finger as it goes to the 3rd fret of the E. And try to aim right for that fret wire so that you get just above it. Don't try to not overshoot it there. And that is a pickup bar for this. After we play that, we're then going to play 2 on the C and 1 on the E together. Middle finger on the 2nd fret of the C, index on the 1st fret of the E. We're going to do the rest stroke. So you see I'm plucking the C and E. I'm stopping on the A string, right? Then we play the 2 on the C again. And then I'm going to add the ring finger here, the 3rd fret of the G string, play the G and C together. I'm playing on a low G ukulele, so you'll hear I'm getting that nice bass. Honestly, I play this song more on a high G ukulele. Sounds a little bit different, but it still works wonderfully. So it doesn't matter what tuning you're playing. Heck, if you're playing on a baritone, this will still work. It just won't sound good while I'm playing it because it'll be in a different key. But it sounds really good on a baritone. After I've done that, I'm going to play open on the C string. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to leave my ring finger and index where they are. I'm going to pluck that open C, and then I'm going to do a hammer-on with my middle finger to the 2nd fret of the C string. When we do the hammer-on, we want to keep a really good articulate angle, make sure that that knuckle is bent, and that we're driving through the instrument a little bit. What that means is that we're just trying to maintain that pressure and really increase it as the finger hammers onto the string. After I've done that, I'm then going to play an F chord. And that is just the middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the G string. The index on the E still stays. And I stop on the A string. So I rest on that A. After I play that, I play 1 on the E. And then I'm going to play the 0 on the G, 0 on the C, and I'm going to play the 1 on the E. Now, I know on the tab it says 3, but look just before the 3. You see that little line? That's a slide. And this is a fast slide. So what we do here is we play the 1, and we immediately slide it to the 3 on the E string. Sometimes we play a note, and then we slide it. Not in this case. We immediately slide it for that nice texture. And then we move that index back down to 1. And now we do a hammer-on to 3 on the E. Same way we did before, really strong with the angle, using the tip of the finger to hammer, kind of drive through the instrument. I love that little line, just going. Such a nice sound. And then we're going to play an F chord here. And then we're going to play the open on the A. That time with the F, you notice we went through all 4 strings. Now we're going to play a B flat chord with an A melody note. So what we do is we leave the index where it is, move the middle finger down to the 2nd fret of the C string. The ring finger is going to kick up to the 3rd fret of the G string. I'm going to pluck through all 4 strings. Now while holding this shape, I'm going to play 3 on the E with the pinky finger, 1 on the E by taking the pinky off, play the 3 again. Then I'm going to move to an A minor chord. Take this middle finger, move it up to the second fret of the G string, take the other fingers off, strum through all 4 strings, and open on the C. And then I'm going to take this middle finger off and play open on the G and open on the C together. It's kind of this little C chord. And then to finish this stanza, which is just this collection of measures here on the tab, going through measures 1 through 4, I'm going to play the 5 on the E string with my ring finger and slide it down to 3 on the E. So it goes, which is the same as the beginning of the tune with that little pickup bar. So here's what that sounds like. The pickup bar now through this full first stanza should be something like this. Going into the next stanza here with measure 5, I'm going to play the same thing, that I just did before. It's exactly the same. Wonderful songs have repetition, and the reason for that is it creates familiarity, and for us learning the songs, it makes it a little bit easier to learn because we already know what to do. So you play those measures 5 and 6 exactly the same way as you did measures 1 and 2. No change whatsoever. Then we go on to measure 7, and it does change here. We're going to start with an F chord, and what I like to do is I actually leave my middle finger off the G string. I just play the C, E, and A together. And now this is the hardest part of the song, I think. You might notice we've had slides, we've had hammer-ons, but we haven't had a pull-off, and this is where we're going to introduce it. What we're going to play is 6 on the E string with the ring finger, and 5 on the A string with the middle finger. This might feel a little awkward at first. And then we're going to take this ring finger, slide it down to 5 on the E, take the middle finger off, put the index on 3 of the A, pluck the E and A together, and then here's our pull-off. 3 goes to 0. So I play the 5 and 3, and then pull off to the open on the A. This is tricky. But the trick with that pull-off is, remember, you're plucking the strings when you do a pull-off. So you want to make sure that you're adding some tension there and physically plucking the string like you would if you're playing with your other fingers. And then after we've done that, we slide this ring finger down to 3 on the E, then open on the A. Now I want to take just a moment on that measure. So it's going the F, right? And then this little B flat, and then another F, pull off, 3, and then open, right? So just practice that one a lot. And the reason I'm saying that is because when I made this arrangement, I had to practice that part a lot to get it comfortable. It's just a little bit more challenging, but it sounds so cool. It's just this really nice open sound. It's almost like bagpipes or something. You can add some slides in there, more on that in a little bit. But then from here, we're going to play 2 on the C with 1 on the E together. And then we're going to play 2 on the C twice. That kind of ends this little melodic section, this sort of A melody. But we're going to play the 3 on the A to kind of pick up into the next one. You'll see that's the last thing written on the tab. So in time, this whole stanza should sound something like this. Now from here we go on to the B melody section. We're going to start with a full F chord. So we're going to play the second fret on the G string here with our middle, but we're going to leave this ring finger here on 3 of the A. So it's 2, 0, 1, 3. We're going to strum through all 4 strings. Do a pull off. So we did one pull off before, now here's another one. Remember, pluck the string with that ring finger. It's okay even if this recesses a little bit as it goes through to try to get that pull off sound, because it's so important to get a really good articulation on that. And then after we play that, we're going to then play 3 on the A with the ring finger, and we're going to slide it up to 5 on the A. It's really tricky to maintain tone with this, but it should look like this. And then after we've done that slide up to 5, we go back down to a C chord. So that little line sounds like this. Then we go to the C chord. Then we're going to play the 3 on the A. And now we're going to play this little modified D minor. To do that, we leave the ring finger here on the 3 of the A string, add the middle finger here to the 2nd fret of the C string, and finally the index finger to the 1st fret of the E string, strum through our C, E, and A together, do a pull off, then play the 3 on the A, and slide up to 5. So it goes, slide all with that ring finger, And then we're going to move it back down to 3, and we're going to add the index here on 2 of the G for this A minor chord. And we're going to play open on the A. That 2-measure stretch is the hardest of the song because it's using so many of these techniques. We're doing slides, we're doing hammer-ons, or rather, we're doing pull-offs, and we're doing them in a very challenging way. So it's okay to spend some extra time just trying to work on that. Here I didn't quite slide that. I kind of went 4. This is a really common occurrence, especially when you're practicing this, for the slides to be undershot or overshot, especially if your hand starts getting fatigued. So it's really important just to pay extra close attention to these parts and to really work on getting the consistency, just like that, right? Then we're going to go to the next thing here on measure 11. We're going to play a G minor, 0, 2, 3, 1. Middle finger on the 2nd fret of the C string, ring finger on the 3rd fret of the E, index on the 1st fret of the A, strum through all 4 strings, and then open on the A by taking the index off. Then play through an F chord. Everyday F chord here, no extra spice, 2, 0, 1, 0. Then we're going to play 3 on the E. Go and take your ring finger, add it there. Don't take away from the chord, just add to it. Play the 3, and then 1 by taking that finger off. You'll notice the index is still there. And then the 3 again with the ring finger. And then we're going to do a nice little slide part. We're going to play open on the C, along with the 3 on the E, and immediately slide it to 5. I know the tab doesn't say the 3. You see it just has the slide, right? The reason for that is it's telling you to slide in from wherever you're at. You were at 3, so when you see that slide in from under on the 5, you play the 3 and immediately go up to 5. We're going to play open on the C, and then open on the G and C together. Before we do 5, slide to 3 the same way we did at the very start of the song. So this stanza, which is quite hard, it's the melody stanza, should sound something like this, starting with that measure 9. Now here's the good news. If you've made it this far, you know everything from here on out except for the very last note, because this next stanza, all the way through the end, should sound like this. That's the same stuff we've been playing, and then that very end, and that finishes the song. So what's cool about that is it's exactly the same as what you played on measures 1, 2, 3, 4 as you're going through. It's just what you're playing to kind of end it there on that D minor chord. It's really fun when you get to get those repeats, those familiar things. And what's fun is you can kind of play off of some of the notes. We'll talk more about that in just a second, but that end sequence is exactly the same as what we've played earlier in the song. In fact, it's the exact same part as measures 5, 6, 7, and 8. Just the last note of 8 goes, while the last note of the song goes. And to play that, we just flip-flop our fingers for a traditional D minor to make sure that we get the 2 on the G string there. So you see my middle finger is there on the 2nd fret of the G, ring finger here on the 2nd fret of the C. And that wraps up this beautiful tune, The Parting Glass, using all of these different techniques. To tie this together with everything else that we've been working on, well, there's a few different things to talk about. The first is making the song even more your own using more of these techniques. I alluded to some of these when I was playing through the song, but there's a lot of opportunity to slide in and out of things. My favorite example of this is when you're playing through this melody. Anytime you see it go from a low number to a high number, you can add a slide. Some of these we already have, right? Like for instance, the very beginning, when it goes through. But if I play just a little bit of it, right there, that little 1 to 3, not just a slide up to 3, but I can actually slide back down 3 to 1 and then do a hammer on. How cool is that, right? So it goes, that's a really nice little embellishment. You can do it anytime you see numbers that are either going up or down. So another area of this. That one so much. I almost wrote it in, but it's a little bit too challenging. So what I'm doing there is when I play through that measure 7, I go, and now I'm going to play the 3 on the E. Well, I just played the 5 on the E. I'm going to slide it down to the 3 and like that. Doesn't that sound cool? You can use this technique anywhere you want when you're playing it. This song is a great example of that, but beyond the song, you can use these techniques in anything that you play. Again, it's not just a cool sound. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. It's also a really great technique to create transitions between sections with higher proficiency and speed. This song is actually more playable when you're comfortable with these techniques than it would be if you played it without the techniques. I'm going to try to play this without the techniques. Watch how much I struggle. It's really choppy, isn't it? And I even accidentally did a slide in the end there, right? Just because slides, hammer-ons, and pull-offs are so integral, especially for my style of playing, just because they can help hide little mistakes and they make transitions so much easier. And so for you, this can be a great way to actually make your playing a lot cleaner, is by getting comfortable with these techniques. You can implement them and start doing them almost subconsciously, almost like filler words, only they sound good. And that's something that's really powerful as an ukulele player, to be able to articulate things in these different ways. Not only can it make your playing smoother, but it can also create more styles. How much do you like the sound of hammer-ons and pull-offs? I love them. I use these all the time in my playing. I love the sound of that. It's just something that I enjoy. I've written songs around that technique and that sound because I love it. But some people might think I use it too much, and that's okay, because on my journey for what I want to play, I use them the way I want to. So find how you like them. Do you like a lot of hammer-ons, pull-offs? Maybe you love slides, but the pull-off is less your thing, or maybe it's the opposite. It doesn't really matter. Experiment with these to help find your voice, to be able to create new sounds, because your voice is such a unique thing, and these techniques can help you find different sounds that eventually, when somebody's listening to you play, they know it's you because it sounds like you, and these techniques can kind of help you with that. So I hope this has been helpful. The parting glass is such a great technique song exercise with the embellishments, just because it shows how you can use slides, hammer-ons, and pull-offs all with high proficiency. Don't forget to make it your own and try these techniques on every step of your own ukulele journey.